You remember that game? Will it pop or will it not? It popped. I'll take it. That was quite a nice pop. And so is this quite a nice beer. This is the channel regular Neumarkt. Decidedly bitter, very fresh, stone cold, like all beers should be. Welcome to 1000 Words. My name is Radu, and today we're talking about this little fella, the JUPITER-8 50mm f2. Before getting into the meat and potatoes of this video, a little bit of housekeeping first. I want to announce the fact that I've created a Discord server loosely based around my channel, where I want to create a community of like-minded people, but more so than anything, it's about street photography, generally speaking, because there is a section for non-street photography, but mainly it's about street photography. And I said loosely based around my channel because while you don't necessarily need to be subscribed to my channel, although I would appreciate it, you can surely be a member of that Discord server and talk to people about photography, about gear, about music, because we have off-topic corners there. So follow the link in the description and kindly join my Discord server. I will host giveaways there in the future and whatever nice things I can think of. That out of the way, let's talk about this nice little fellow here. This is the JUPITER-8 50mm f2. Let me just take it off this adapter and see it in all its glory. This is quite a lovely little lens. Beautiful to look at. In quite good shape, I might add. And as you will hopefully see in this video, it's quite a capable, quite a beautiful image-making apparatus. Now, this is a direct copy of the 1930s Carl Zeiss sonar, the 50mm f2. And before I say anything else, I want to offer a bit of clarification, because I'm under the impression that people, when you say Soviet lenses are copies of German counterparts, a lot of people, if not all, but certainly most people, will think kind of like in the movies where spies go and steal diagrams and lens designs and take them back to Russia, and the bad old Russians, they just make them their own after having stolen good work from the good old Western Europeans. However, reality is usually more nuanced than that. And such is the case now. You see, when I say it is a copy of the Carl Zeiss sonar, what I mean is the fact that after World War II ended, the Russians were awarded war reparations, basically a lot, should I say all, of Eastern Germany's Carl Zeiss factories, lens designs, and oftentimes quite a hefty bit of glass, because the first batches of a lot of Soviet lenses made around the late 40s and early 50s, a lot of those lenses were still being made with German glass, the glass that they got from the German factory. So I felt like it was needed to be said. The Russians didn't steal the designs for these lenses. Like, I think I've even heard somebody say that Russian spy took a lens back home and they reversed engineered it to make the, I think it was regards to the 44-2, the Helios. But nothing could be further from the truth. The Soviets were legitimately granted a lot of East German optical designs, optical glass, as war reparations. So, considering that this lens is not only a direct copy of the Zeiss sonar, but it's actually a very legitimate direct ancestor of that lens. Furthermore, the earlier versions were made with German glass. It kind of makes you wonder where this whole idea of inferior Soviet optics even came from, because I think it perhaps later on, yeah, sure, if we're talking about 70s and 80s, it merits some attention, and it's comfortably grounded in truth. But very early on, a lot of the lenses were made with top-of-the-line German glass. Even this now, in 1954, it was recalculated for Soviet-grade optical glass, which is meaning to say, and I think it's a safe assumption, that until that time it was manufactured with German glass. The production of the Jupiter-8 began in 1947 at the Krasnogorsky Mechaniczny Zavod, the Krasnogorsky mechanical plant. My particular copy was still made by KMZ, which is short for Krasnogorsky Mechaniczny Zavod, and mine was made in 1963. A total of 4 types or variants were made, 2 in aluminum silver finish and 2 were black. Mine is the second variant of the lens. Now, the word on the street, pun intended, is that the first version, the silver aluminum one, is the best, both as far as construction and as image quality. The second is supposedly the last version, the matte black one. The third is this one here, the one that I own, the 1960s or thereabouts second aluminum version, and the worst is supposed to be the first black version. Now, they're all coated, but the coatings are quite basic, and I'm under the impression, and I think I'm not wrong, that only the first optical element is coated. However, this lens is supposed to show quite a bit of variation as far as optical performance and even as far as the build quality. I, however, don't expect there to be much in the way of differences, but people have shown there to be a bit. The lens was made both in contact mount and L39 mount. It's a rangefinder lens, so it only focuses down to 1 meter. That could very well be the biggest drawback of this lens. It has an optical construction consisting of 6 elements in 3 groups, 9 slightly rounded diaphragm blades. It weighs around 130 grams. The lenses marked made in the USSR were supposedly made for export. Mine has no writing of that sort, only the beauty ring is inscripted in Cyrillic characters. The aperture ring provides continuous aperture adjustment without any click stops, and the focusing ring travels about 200 degrees from minimum focus to infinity, and it has a filter thread of 40.5 millimeters. This is quite a small little lens, and even though my copy was not yet serviced, I do need to send it for a good CLA. It's in quite a very good condition. It only has a bit of a flaw, let's say. After around f8 or so, the aperture ring gets a little stiff and hard to turn, but seeing how I mostly shoot wide open, I don't necessarily see this as an issue, but I do want to have this serviced just so I know it's in good shape for years to come. The focusing ring is still very smooth, no bumps, no stiffness. It travels uniformly and it's very easy to use. It allows for precise focus, easy focus at that. Let me just put it on the camera and show you how it looks on the camera. I think it's quite a beautiful combination. This is on my A7R3 in full ninja mode, all blacked out because, yeah, I think it's cool. No other reason than that. It's a very nice compact kit. I love using this. Now, as far as image quality goes, it should be stated right from the get-go that this lens is 60 years old and it shows. The JUPITER-8 is decidedly a low contrast lens. Moreover, when struck by light in a certain way, this lens makes for washed out images with lots of ghosting and wild, unpredictable flares. And to make matters worse, the flares are not particularly pleasing to begin with, so they can hardly be used as a creative aid. This makes the use of a lens hood almost mandatory, yet I didn't use one. However, with careful shooting, minding of the light and its direction, and some post-processing, the JUPITER-8 will make wonderful, beautiful images. Colors are pretty and lively, with just enough pop. Decently saturated, a little on the warm side of the spectrum, pleasant and present, albeit somewhat soft and gentle. As a matter of fact, soft and gentle are words that very well describe the images this lens makes, even slightly unassuming, however, with a charming air of elegance to them. With black and white, this is even more noticeable. The tones are very classic and vintage, with a good, faithful and precise gradation between darks and lights. But there's no way around the fact that this lens is very low contrast. However, with just a bit of post-processing, images get a very charming silvery look to them, a pleasant shine and an airy kind of look that only further adds to the distinguished elegance I spoke of earlier. Quite sharp in the center but quickly getting softer towards the edges, the JUPITER-8 is, however, very capable of controlling geometric distortions, showing practically none, very surprisingly considered the very basic optical construction and the age of the lens. Yet more surprising still, the same goes for chromatic aberrations. They are, for all intents and purposes, basically non-existent. Of note is the peculiar bokeh this lens makes. It's often soft, tamed, and well-behaved, but in certain situations it comes alive and makes for a lot of bubbles. While some may find this distracting and busy, I think it's quite beautiful and that it adds a lot of charm and character to the images, which can otherwise sometimes tend to be a little bland. Very beautiful, excellent for portraits. Really nice how it's sharp in the middle and soft at the edges. Nothing really egregious about this lens. It doesn't have any big flaws, just the lack of contrast and the easiness with which it flares, but that is par for the course. It's a 60-year-old lens with very basic coatings. Now, as far as build quality goes, this lens is really well made. There is absolutely no oil on the blades. As I previously stated, the focus ring is smooth and practically flawless. Only the aperture ring has a bit of stiffness from f8 onwards, but this lens should soon enough see some CLA, so it will get a well-deserved cleaning, lubrication, and adjustment. It's really well made in the way that there's practically no feeling of looseness, there's no give. It feels like a really well-engineered piece of glass, and if the later variants changed the helicoid design, this still has an independently turning barrel and helicoid and aperture ring, And I think this is great. The other later variants have a fixed barrel, a fixed focusing block, let's say. And when you focus, it turns the entire front element. That said, I pretty much love this lens. I enjoyed shooting it a lot, and I will continue to enjoy shooting it. It's quite charming. I'll give you that. It's quite charming. I love me vintage Russian lenses, and it was stupidly cheap. I got this and another Russian lens, the Industar 50mm f3.5. So two lenses, the Jupiter and the Industar, for what now, like about 50 euros, a bit like 55 euros for both lenses. Now, this alone can go up to as high as 60 or 70 euros. And I think that's about the most you should pay for this. But other than that, this lens can be had for really cheap, really for peanuts, and it's much, much better than what you pay for it. That about wraps it all up. I want to very quickly ask you to kindly join me on my Discord server. There should be loads of fun there. It's still very much a work in progress, still very much under construction. So if you do join us, don't expect a lot. It's very early days. There's already a handful of very, very good quality people handpicked by myself. So that should provide us with quite a good start. So join us on Discord. Until next time, I have been Radu. This has been 1,000 Words. Be well.